Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and we've got another great day of shooting. We're going to show you some guns and some things I think you're really going to find interesting. Our associate producer, Kurt Vickers, has a wonderful piece on a Civil War battle reenactment, and I know you're really going to enjoy that. Well, as you can see, we have our official t-shirt now, and we've got a lot of requests for caps. We had to go back and have some more made, so please, you folks, bear with me. We're going to get these to you just immediately. We just got a bunch in, and now we have shirts. And we're going to let you show your pride in the Shootin' Show for $14.95. We'll send you a t-shirt here just like the one I'm wearing. We have them in sizes XL and large, and I think it looks neat. We've had a lot of favorable comment on it. I tell you what, I think it's something that a lot of our viewers will want to have. So without further ado, please remember now, we're still free to those cable companies and local TV stations. So if you're watching by satellite in an area, please let those local stations know and those local cable companies, because friends, we're making strides with the Shootin' Show. We've got to get our message out, and we know you're going to help us. Anyway, without further ado, let's let another Shootin' Show begin. Now friends, we're looking at two different handguns today. They're very similar, but they're very different in some other ways. We have our Ruger Super Blackhawk single action 44 Magnum here in my left hand, on your right. And in my right hand, the good folks at Britain's have loaned us a Ruger Bisley, which is another single action handgun made by Ruger. And this one is in 41 Magnum caliber. And I tell you what, friends, the Bisley, I think, is just one of the prettiest handguns I think I ever saw. The wood and everything is coordinated so well. You can see from our photographs the grip frame is considerably different on the Bisley, and the word Bisley is for an old target match back from many years ago, and heck, for all I know, they may still have matches there, and please forgive my ignorance, but that's where the term comes from. There was a Colt model Bisley back around 1900 or so in the single action, and the Ruger is very similar. You can see the hammers are different, the triggers are different. The most obvious difference is the grip. Now the cylinder on the Bisley is roll marked. It has some engraving, a roll marking type thing, pictures of the old target shooters there on the range from years ago, but it has a different recoil sensation. They shoot differently. To my knowledge, there's no difference in accuracy between one Ruger barrel to the next. We have a Ruger Red Hawk here that we have compared our 5.5-inch single action with the Red Hawk, and there's just almost no difference either in accuracy or in velocity. So certainly that's not going to be a difference. The frames themselves are almost the same, if in fact not the same. But the grip frame is considerably different. The standard 41 Magnum on a Blackhawk has an aluminum grip frame, whereas the Bisley has a steel grip frame. It's just subtle differences that really make them feel like drastically different guns in the hand. The advantage that the Bisley has, I suppose, and some of the gun writers have, and a couple of custom gun makers have taken the Bisley frames, and they're saying, and I think they're right, your recoil sensation due to the different grip is quite a bit different. They put these these mega cartridges instead of Magnum. Let's call them mega cartridges, such as the 475 line ball, the 500 revolver cartridges, the great big 5-shot cylinders. They put a different cylinder, but they use these frames, and they like this grip. Now, I think one of the things that they sometimes change on the Bisley, the trigger is a little sharp. Just for me, I have a size large finger there, and they may change that slightly, but the grip frame is what makes it more manageable under severe recoil. And I think they've got a point, because we were shooting some really hot 41 Magnum loads out here yesterday with this gun, and compared to the full house 44 Magnum loads, you just didn't get, it seemed like it didn't hit you as hard. And of course, like many of the other, most of the other Rugers, you have very fine adjustable sights. So these guns with proper hand loads, many times you'll find a load, or certainly some of the factory loads, you'll find a particular load that these guns really do like, and they shoot so well. The Rugers typically come from the factory with, and we're going to check, we know this gun is unloaded. They typically come from the factory with somewhat heavy triggers, and they do this because, you know, you don't know who is going to buy one of these guns out there in a store. So they really go to great lengths to keep them as safe as they possibly can. So to avoid litigation on, say, a hair trigger, you know, there are people out there that are very unscrupulous or might use one of these guns not knowing how it works properly, and they might have the gun go off when they didn't mean for it to. So they tend to put a heavier trigger. A lot of the custom gunsmiths, a lot of the folks that work on these guns can take the trigger pulls down to a very, very light and crisp pull, which helps a whole bunch in target shooting. Accuracy at 25-50, and of course this gun with the 41 Magnum is a 100-yard deer cartridge. It'll just about do anything that the 44 Magnum will do, but it does it with less recoil, maybe a little bit less noise. But what let's do, let's go ahead and shoot the Bisley and 41 Magnum as compared to the 44 Magnum in the Super Blackhawk, and let you look at it, let you compare. But I'll tell you now, the Bisley just does not seem to hit you as hard as the regular Super Blackhawk. And for that matter, I don't find the Super Blackhawk painful, certainly not. But the Bisley does have some advantages. Well, there's one other thing. Ruger only makes these guns in certain production runs. They don't make this gun all the time. That's what the folks I talked to at Ruger some time back told me. So these Bisleys are a little bit hard to find. They're extremely desirable guns to have, especially if you like single action. So you might drop Ruger a line. You might write a little note there asking them to please consider putting these Bisleys in a little more regular production, because they really are hard to find. So let's shoot these guns, and heck, let you take a look at it. All right, friends, we load it just like any other single action, and here's a good time to say this. You know, the new model Ruger single actions, which came along about 1973, they put a transfer bar ignition system. So these guns are safe to be carried with 6 rounds chambered. I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal recently that was very critical of Ruger's old model single actions. But you know, friends, the people in the Old West were around guns. They understood how they worked much more than our average citizen is today. And they knew that on single actions, you safely only carried 5 rounds in the gun. You always left an empty chamber underneath that hammer. Underneath that firing pin was always empty. And they went to great lengths to be sure that they did that so they could safely handle their guns. Well, the old style single actions, and there are still a lot of them out there. There are a number of Colts, a number of old model Rugers still out there that have to be carried like that. If your Ruger does not have a transfer bar ignition, and the way you can tell we know this gun's unloaded, you can cock the hammer. If you don't have a little plate coming up between that hammer and that firing pin that will literally connect the two of them, well, you don't have a transfer bar ignition on the Ruger. It's just real easy to see. It's right there in the back. If you don't have that little metal piece rise up to cover that firing pin so the hammer can get to it, well, you don't have a transfer bar ignition. Now, Ruger does offer a conversion package on the old model. They do offer a conversion package so you can make your single action old model Ruger more safe, certainly with 6 cartridges in the cylinder. And they will do that. I believe it's free of charge. They will even let you keep the original parts for collector status, and all you have to do is get in touch with them and ask them details. But these new model single actions can be safely carried with 6 rounds in the chamber. It has an ignition system the same as or similar to their double action revolver line. So you know the drill. We'll open our loading gate, point the gun in a safe direction, and we're going to put in our cartridges one at a time. Now, what we have here is Winchester 210 grain factory ammunition, and it is full charge 41 Magnum, and believe me, it is just about a 44. The energy levels, the velocities are very close to a 44, but you don't have quite as much recoil as I have mentioned earlier. So let's shoot both guns and let you be the judge of what you think about recoil of the Bisley versus recoil of the standard Super Blackhawk. All right, Believe me, I am going to put my hearing protection in real well. And you may even see a little muzzle flash because it's getting sort of late in the afternoon. It's getting a little darker here. Well, let's take a look at it, see how it goes. All right, here we go. A lot of power. And one more. See, it did recoil, but it just doesn't hurt you. It comes back in your hand. It spreads out the recoil over a large part of your hand. It just doesn't seem to hurt, or certainly doesn't seem as severe, shall we say. Now then, friends, let's shoot our full house 44 Magnum here in the 5.5-inch Super Blackhawk and let you watch recoil in it. Which is really not that bad. I don't think any of them are certainly 44 are that bad. And one more. Now the sensation you get is that it bucks a little more in your hand for the Super Blackhawk. At least that's what I get. But both of these are very, very fine single action revolvers. But you definitely, if you're looking at a single action and you get a chance to someone has a Bisley, you darn sure ought to feel of it. It has a totally different feel in the hand, at least it does to me. It has a lot of real desirable qualities, and they are getting somewhat hard to find. Several of us might write the Ruger factory a letter and ask them to please put more of these in production. Heck, I wish they'd make one in stainless steel, and I don't believe they do at this time. But two very fine guns from Ruger. If you like single actions, I'm one of those people that does like single actions. They shoot real well. They're very easy to have them slightly customized. You can get those triggers down good. And heck, I've never heard of one being worn out if it's reasonably cared for and maintained. Of course, you can abuse and tear up anything, but these are among the most rugged and durable handguns ever made. So two very fine single actions from Ruger, but featuring the Bisley today.
All right, people, the voters are screaming about violent crime. What are we going to tell them?
How about the truth? We're not keeping violent criminals in prison.
Sir,
Oh, no,
35
that's right.
states are under court order to release criminals.
The average criminal set free will commit 187 more crimes a year.
We're out of prison space.
We gotta make more. Good people are getting hurt bad.
With the likelihood of arrest and conviction, a murderer will spend 1.8 years in prison.
Yeah, and a rapist a couple of months.
I'm not in the prison building business.
We're in the re-election business.
Thank you.
Listen, just a handful of repeat offenders commit most violent crimes.
We could just stop letting them go.
Well, stop giving me the facts and start giving me headlines.
How about another gun control law?
Yeah, we've already got 20,000 of them.
It just don't work.
So my gun control plan to restrict firearm sales to citizens will break the back of violent crime and rid our streets of violent criminals. Do we have any questions?
Don't let politicians get away with murder. Join the NRA.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after this break for your local cable company or television station. Now, friends, we're very pleased to present our associate producer, Kurt Vickers, and he recently did a piece for us at a Civil War reenactment, and it's a very entertaining and interesting piece of history he's going to cover for us. I know you're going to enjoy it.
We're here today just outside of Leesburg, Virginia, at the Oaklands Plantation, where there will be a recreation of the largest Western Hemisphere cavalry battle in history, the Battle of Brandy Station, which eventually involved over 18,000 mounted troops as well as artillery and infantry units. What will be recreated here today by Civil War reenactors is the first part of the battle, which is the crossing at Beverly's Ford. We'll get back to this in a few minutes. I should like to note that Sam Elliott, who is starring in a recent production called The Killer Angels, or it may be retitled simply Gettysburg, is here as one of the guest celebrities, and you may hear him narrating from time to time. Here we're seeing components of the Federal Cavalry.
Rachel? Rachel? Come back here. Come here right now.
Get the fans ready.
Yes.
I am wandering off. No. No doubt about
All orders are conveyed to the troopers by means of a bugle. Infantry units often transmitted their messages by drum. There are approximately 325 mounted cavalry troops here today as reenactors. As I mentioned before, approximately 18,000 took place in this battle. The ravine that you see in front of you is being used to represent the actual fording, which could not be done through water because of the safety for the reenactors and for the spectators.
I kind of wanted to shoot that balloon. I wanted to get away before something happened.
Here on the far side of the hill, we have dismounted pickets.
Close proximity of the pickets. Morning of June 9, 1863, the 6th Virginia Cavalry were the pickets, and units of the Grand Guard were the 7th Virginia Cavalry. These were both part of the brigade of General Jones.
The Federal troops have just crossed the ford. They're encountering the skirmishers in the picket line. You can just make out the Federal skirmishers through the tree line. As mentioned before, the Confederate pickets are set up here on this side of the roadway. I believe the Federals are now getting ready to charge a position. And although on a limited scale, this is what happened that morning. They quickly overran the Confederate. It was one of the Confederate batteries opening. Confederate cavalry is being repulsed at this point. The Federal troops have not advanced yet. You may hear the bugle calls, and although things seem confused, each unit knows what it's going to do in response to the type of bugle call it receives. Federal troops are still active. One of the batteries opening up, that was the second one firing, and as you can see, there was the third one. The field of battle is about to be entered. Focusing a little bit on the Confederate cavalry. These elements were surprised. Many of the men showed up out of uniform and shirt sleeve. It goes without saying that the skirmish has started on a wide scale. Remember, we're dealing with 325 horses here. They were dealing with 18,000. However, they were not all committed to this particular engagement. Focusing for some of the individual combat. Confederates are now rallying their troops and getting ready to attack as a unit instead of the way they retreated individually. Confederate batteries have opened again. As you will note if you watch closely, Federal and Confederate troops do clink sabers as part of their tribute to the actual soldiers who were involved in the battle. The object of this is not for anyone to get hurt. If you couldn't pick it up from the speaker, some of the Union infantry is now moving up in support of the cavalry. Those are blank charges the artillery is using, but you can feel a blast, even at this distance.
I was going to block the road for the horses. Firing over the field, because otherwise they're firing on the nest and you're firing to both sides.
so close together that you can't get your crack much towards it.
Folks, what we're going to do now is take a closer look at some of the weapons that were carried by the cavalry and are now still carried by the reenactors. The first gun that we are looking at is the 1851 Navy. It was favored by the officers on both sides of the Civil War, usually in .36 caliber. The one we're looking at happens to be a .44 caliber. Although it's called the Navy type, it's misnamed since many more Army personnel used it, but it was originally ordered for some Navy personnel and the name just stuck. The barrel is blued steel, 7.5 inches, with an overall length of the revolver being 12 7/8 inch. The next pistol that we were looking at is a .44 caliber 1860 Colt Army revolver. Again, this is a reproduction like the other guns that you will be seeing here. It has a round barrel as opposed to the octagon barrel on the Navy revolver. It's 8 inches with an overall length being close to 14 inches. Some of these were cut out in the grips for attachment of a shoulder stock, where a small hook would grab underneath the grip frame and be tightened down with a screw. This was supposed to somewhat increase the range of the revolver, although that's negligible. Lastly, we have the Remington .44 caliber Army revolver. This was one of the widest used handguns of the Civil War. The Remington's enclosed frame design actually made the revolver a much stronger design than the open-topped Colts. We'll go back to show that again, but the cylinders on the Colts can be removed by loosening the barrel and just lifting it off. In this case, with the Remington, all that needs to be done is drop the loading lever, pull forward on the little button in front of the frame, the cylinder pops out, a new cylinder can be put in, and the barrel doesn't have to be respaced so that the cylinder can turn like it does on the 1851 Navy and 1860 Army. For that reason, my particular reenactment group, the 17th Pennsylvania Cavalry, has opted to carry these. In our cartridge boxes, rather than carrying our cartridges, we simply hollow them out and carry 2 to 3 extra preloaded cylinders, which can be changed while on horseback. Now, these are by no means the only revolvers that were carried in the Civil War, especially on the Confederate side. The reason for that being that the Federal troops like to issue their own equipment so that everything was standardized. The Confederates, on the other hand, often showed up with whatever they had handy, and a lot of pistols from an earlier period, even than this, showed up. The Walker revolver, for instance, was a .44 caliber, extremely strong gun that could be loaded with black powder up to almost 44 Magnum and definitely 44 Special pressures and muzzle velocities today. Also some Colt Walker Dragoons, which were slightly shortened versions of the Walker with additional minor adjustments made to the loading lever. There were also other companies that made revolvers, such as Spiller and Burr. These were also sometimes carried. One of the favorite guns of the Confederacy is the Lamat revolver, which was a 9-shot .44 caliber black powder gun that had a 16-gauge shot barrel mounted underneath, and you had a flip lever on the hammer to determine which one of the two cylinders, which one of the two actions you wanted fired.
Friends, stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after this break for your local cable company or television station.
Hi, I'm Bill McIntyre with another update from Capitol Hill here at the National Rifle Association headquarters in Washington, D.C. Sitting next to me is Rocky Marcario, the Director for Membership Division here at the NRA. He's going to tell us a little bit about the Membership Division and what they've been up to for the past year or so. Rocky, if you would, give us an idea of what membership has been up to for the last year or so. I understand that the roll call is really growing.
Sure is, Bill. I think anybody who's been looking at the NRA for the past 2 years has seen a dramatic increase in membership. Before we came down here this afternoon, I checked the membership, and as of this morning, we were at 3,211,000 and change. That is an increase of about 400,000 members since this time last year. In the past 2 years, we've added over 750,000 members to our roll, so there's clearly a trend that people are jumping on the NRA bandwagon, so to speak.
Well, why are they joining now?
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of things, Bill. I think that perhaps what they're seeing is that some of the things the NRA has been trying to teach them in the past about why they should join, pointing out examples of hunter harassment and various anti-gun measures that a lot of municipalities are enforcing right now. We've been telling them that this was going to happen, and now they're seeing it happen, and they're saying, well, gee, maybe I better join the NRA. They seem to know what they're talking about, and they can protect my gun rights.
Has the election of Bill Clinton added any fuel to the fire?
It sure has. We had quite an influx of members after his election, and I'm sure he wouldn't be real happy to know that he helped the NRA grow. But he really has had an impact. People, for the first time, see a real threat in the White House.
Okay, I understand that a lot of our new members and existing members really break the stereotype that folks have about the average NRA member. Who is joining, and why are they joining? What's motivating them to join, and where are they coming from? Are they all from the South? Are they all from the Northeast? Are they all conservative?
No, quite the contrary. They're coming from all walks of life. There really is no stereotypical, typical NRA member. There is none. I mean, there's this myth that the standard NRA member is somebody who drives around in a pickup truck, drinking beer and shooting out of his window. And that's not the case at all. The demographics of our membership closely mimic those of almost any other association.
What kinds of people are joining? I mean, I know that for gun owners, women are the fastest growing segment across the country. In the last decade or so, the number of female gun owners has doubled. Is NRA membership reflecting a higher percentage of female members, both new and long-standing?
Yeah, we have had an increase in women members, particularly since the NRA became involved in the women's personal protection seminars that we're conducting now. There's still not nearly as many women members as we like, and I think that we're getting back to this stereotype thing. The NRA has been perceived as a man's organization, and we are really trying to change that because it's for anyone who values their gun rights.
What are the tiers of membership? I understand it's $25 for an annual membership, but you can do more, you can do less. There are different kinds of payment. And what do you get for your money?
A $25 membership is the 1 year that you're familiar with, and most people are. We also have a 3-year membership available for $68 and a 5-year membership for $100. We have a lifetime membership for $500. Now that's the person who wants to make the ultimate commitment, and that is available on an easy pay plan, by the way. What you get, I said, first and foremost, you're going to get effective protection of your Second Amendment rights. I mean, that's really the bottom line of why we exist. You're also going to get some of the more popular items that we have, the black and gold NRA shooter's cap, which is, I'm sure you've all seen it. You're going to get $11,000 worth of various firearms-related insurance through the NRA. We also have quite a few other lesser benefits, but in total, it's a pretty good package you get, and it's one of the best deals going.
What's the future for NRA membership? What do you see? What have you got planned for us?
Well, I know that the membership committee on the board has told me where we're going to be, and it's just my job to get there. And we see the trend is clearly one that people who have been reluctant to join the NRA are now coming on board, and we see nothing but increases in membership from now and into the future.
If anybody wants to become a member after viewing us, what number do they call?
Real easy. It's 800-368-5714, and that'll put you in touch with one of our operators here at headquarters, and they can sign you up over the phone, and they'll take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, whatever you've got.
Okay. Very good. Rocky Marcario, Director, Membership Division, National Rifle Association. That's all for this week. I'll be back again next week with another update from Capitol Hill here at NRA headquarters in Washington, D.C. For now, I'm Bill McIntyre.
And now let's rejoin Kurt for some more information on some of the cavalry equipment from the Civil War.
From here we move on to the most commonly carried carbine of the era, which we're going to move in just a second. This is the Sharps carbine. Carbine simply meaning a shortened barrel rifle version. The Sharps was popular because it opened and loaded from the breech, being the end that I'm pointing at right now, rather than loading from the muzzle as the Springfield and Enfield muskets did. As you can imagine, it would be very difficult to change cartridges on horseback if you had the loads from the muzzle end. What you see attached here is a trooper's buckle and spring and sling. The hook from the sling is attached to a saddle ring. The trooper wore this across his shoulders. That way, if in the heat of battle with the horses jumping and mingling, he should drop his revolver, his carbine. It can only go as far as the end of this sling, and he can easily retrieve it. To load this particular carbine, what you did was grab the bottom of the frame, pull down on the trigger guard, and the breech opened up top. Now, as you can see, this block has dropped down. What that has done has now opened up a hole up on top. The trooper would carry pre-made paper cartridges in a cartridge box. Simply insert it in here, close it up, and this has a very sharp edge on it. It would actually nip open the end of the paper. Then he would cock his piece, put the nipple right there, and be ready to fire. Another slightly unusual piece that was sometimes seen was the Remington revolving carbine. Now, if you look closely at this action, this looks exactly the same as the action from the Remington pistol. And in fact, it is exactly the same. What has been made different is putting a 16.5-inch octagon barrel on it, along with a shoulder stock. Because of the longer barrel travel, accuracy was a little better with the revolver than with the pistol, although not nearly as powerful as the Sharps carbine load. In close quarters combat, the option of 6 shots versus the 1 did hold its appeal. And as said before, the extra cylinders can be carried already loaded up, so that in effect the soldier at his command could have 6, 12, 18, 24, however many shots at his disposal, depending on how much weight he wanted to carry in leather pouches with preloaded cylinders. Once again, we'll go back and look at the pistols. This is the Remington pistol again, like the Remington revolving carbine we just looked at. Of note is that the frame is continuous into a solid backstrap, so that the cylinder lifts out, cylinder goes back in. The relationship to from the cylinder to the barrel doesn't change. As opposed to the 2 Colt reproductions, which, as you will note, the cylinder is free. There's nothing on the top, on either one. In order to unload one of these guns for cleaning, or if you wanted to reload it with another cylinder, you simply loosen the screw, pull down the retaining pin. Now the barrel would slide forward. You take your cylinder out, you could put your new cylinder in. However, when you closed up this distance, you had to make sure by pulling the hammer or putting on half cock and spinning this that the cylinder would in fact turn. You could push this back so far that when you tightened it, you locked up the entire action. And that's one of the reasons why these 2 guns, although carried by the cavalry, were not felt to be as superior as the Remington. We can do future features on some of these black powder guns, show you how they're loaded, what they chronograph when they fire, and what it looks like at a later date. I can tell you it's pretty dramatic, and it's a lot of fun. It gives you a healthy respect for the soldiers who had to actually carry these in battle. In fact, many of the cavalry carried more than 1 or 2 revolvers. A lot of soldiers carried as many revolvers as they could get on horseback. If you recall from the outlaw Josie Wales and some other movies, they often went into battle with several pistols slung about them. They even had what's called pommel holsters. These slipped over the front of the saddle, and you carry an extra 2 there. And oftentimes many of the soldiers would put some extra pistols under their belt or anywhere else that they could tie them down and get at them in a hurry. When we go through the loading procedure for these 2 guns, you'll see why that was done. It is not very quick to load black powder revolvers. You have to put in your black powder, then you have to squeeze a ball into each one of the cylinders, then you have to put a little grease in front of it to prevent the possibility of chain fire, because when one of these fires, sparks come flying out in all directions, and if the other parts of the cylinder aren't protected, a spark could set off some of the other shots when they weren't in line with the barrel, and you'd have a blown-up gun on your hand, assuming you still had your hand. No discussion of a cavalryman's equipment, however, would be complete without discussing the cavalry saber. The saber was slung from a duty belt and was meant to hang down alongside of your leg. Oftentimes when soldiers were walking around, they would lift the upper ring and hook that onto the belt to keep the sword from dragging on the ground. The sword, or saber in this case, is considered your primary weapon. Carried on your left side, you draw it with your right hand. The reason for the holsters for the pistols having the butts forward, which looks like a backward turn, was because they were to be pulled with your left hand and used as a secondary weapon, or at least shifted to that hand and used as a secondary weapon. There was no trick to having the holster with the butt forward. It wasn't meant for a speed draw. The reason you'll see it sometimes in the westerns canted that way is simply because many of the soldiers who grew up and trained with the gun being drawn from that position were more confident with it in that position and could make a quick half turn with the gun in their hand and at the same time cock the hammer. And lastly, we have the trooper's saddle. Actually, this saddle only differs from an officer's model in that the saddle itself is not covered in black leather. It's simply covered in rawhide. Now, usually when first people take a look at this, they think, my goodness, what an uncomfortable looking thing. But it actually is very comfortable, not only for the rider, but for the horse. General McClellan was excellent at training troops. He was an excellent tactician. He was just a lousy fighter, and eventually had to be taken from command of the Army of the Potomac. However, earlier in his life, he had been sent on a military mission over to the Crimea and studied the tactics and equipment used by the British and the Russians. He also noted that many of the soldiers had trouble learning how to ride, and many of the mounts were dying from heat exhaustion. What he set out to do then was to redesign the saddle. He came up with this idea for a lightweight saddle. It sits differently than Western. For those of you who ride horseback, this cants your pelvis slightly forward so that you have to ride on your pelvic bones, not sitting on your rear end like you do in a chair, and which some people have a tendency to do in a saddle. If you sit that way, you bounce and feel every motion of the horse, whereas if you sit forward on the bones and use your legs and feet as shock absorbers, you get a much smoother ride. This saddle almost forces you to do that. As far as the heat problem, that's the reason why you'll notice the front is high arched, and of course the center part of the saddle is open. That allows the horse's body heat to come up through there. Unfortunately, it also allows the horse's body heat to come up through and hit your bottom. But it did spare some mounts. The saddle is very, very lightweight, as I said. Can easily be carried with one hand, using your other hand to carry additional equipment, something that cannot always be said of Western saddles. It mounts very quickly. It can be put into action very quickly. Along the one side here is simply a leather socket. Once you've positioned yourself on the horse, you shifted the carbine, which you slung around your back prior to mounting. Now you rotated it around to the front, dropped the barrel through the socket, and now the gun would be held in place and wouldn't be rattling around. For those of you who horseback ride, once again I'll tell you that no matter how good a rider you are, there's always the chance of getting knocked off your saddle, being caught unawares, having a horse panic and bolt. For this reason, most soldiers would not put the barrel of their gun through there. They might leave it slung higher up over their back. Because once that barrel is stuck through that socket, you've got a fixed point, and if you start to get thrown from your horse, that's going to prevent a natural fall It's going to get you all tangled up. But more importantly, and the thing that we see mostly at reenactments, is people go to get off their horse forgetting that it's in there. They get about a quarter of the way off when their leg hits their carbine, and, well, let's just say it's not pleasant to watch what happens next.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. Now, friends, for the absolute best in monthly shooting magazines, turn to Shooting Times, with all sorts of excellent features on handguns, rifles, shotguns, and black powder, and hand loading by some of your favorite gun writers, such as Dick Metcalf and Rick Jameson and Bill Jordan, just to name a few. Each month you'll find interesting articles on gun shooting, reloading, and new products for the firearms industry, along with information on pending legislation, and that's of interest to all gun owners. For subscription information, call 1-800-727-4353. Shooting Times, the best there is.
I'm proud to be an American, thank God our country's strong. But some time ago, you know, it occurred to me, there's something going wrong. My granddad fought against tyranny, so we could all be free. I'm afraid, my friends, his fight has passed down to you and me, down to you and me. We got people telling us what to do, we don't even know our name. We're just a number on some little card, and I think that's a shame. If George and Abe could see us now, bet they'd both agree this is not exactly what they had in mind. The land of liberty, sweet land of liberty. Oh, I love to hear my Harley run. I like being free to live out my dreams, and I want to have a little fun. I want to hold on to what we've got, from sea to shining sea. I'm afraid, my friend, the fight has passed down to you and me. Oh, down to you and me. We got politicians and bureaucrats all telling us what to do. And they don't seem at all concerned about what they put us through. They tax and spend like there's no end, throw it all away. Just keep in mind there'll come a time when nobody's left to pay. Well, nobody's left to pay. There's people that wanna lock us up just to keep us away from harm. They want a police state to give us orders that they can get us unarmed. There's folks that say they know the truth, well, they saw it on TV. We got some boys on Capitol Hill, don't wanna have us free. No, they don't wanna have us free. My Harley run. I like being free to live out my dreams, and I want to have a little fun. I want to hold on to what we've got, from sea to shining sea. afraid, my friends, the fight is past. Down to you and me. Well, down to you and me. Down, down, down to you and me. Oh, down, down, down to you and me. Down, down, down. You and me. Down to you and me.
Friends, we hope you enjoyed our video because it means a lot to all of us. The video is really doing well with our audience, everyone who has seen it. Well, the message is what is so important. In fact, we had a little fun with it, certainly had a lot of fun doing it, but the message of the video is, I think, what is so important. And every time it gets played, it helps our project for the Shootin' Show. We do appreciate all your letters. We appreciate everything that the people have said. It's certainly been an inspiration to all of us. Please call your local radio station, ask them to play our CD, which is entitled Down to You and Me by yours truly, Johnny Rowland. Most stations around the country should have that CD. It's on the Tennessee Star Tracks Sizzling Summer Singles too, and we really would appreciate it. Now, you can buy a copy of the video that you just saw on the program for $17.95. You can buy a copy of the audio tape with 10 of my songs on it for $9.95. So you have our Shootin' Show address, 554 Kings Highway, Shreveport, Louisiana. Our zip code is 71104, and we're getting those out as fast as we can. We really do appreciate all of your support out there. As I think you will agree, we need to get our message on what we're doing, what we're about as gun owners, out to the public. And speaking of the public, let me show you something. We got the neatest thing in a few days ago from a young lady, and her name is Susan Waterman. And Susan is 12 years old, I believe this past week, and she is from Marthasville, Missouri. And Susan, we'd like for you to know we really do appreciate you watching our program. And friends, as you can see, that's an outstanding, and I believe Susan drew that, the Eddie Eagle cartoon character from the NRA for children, and she really did a really nice job on that. We appreciate, Susan, you watching our show. We're very pleased to have you as a viewer, and certainly your whole family. Now then, well, friends, you'll notice that I am wearing not only the official Shootin' Show cap here, which so many of you have ordered. Trust me, we will get them to you. We had to have another batch made up. We also have a Shootin' Show shirt, and of course you can see it says the Shootin' Show. It's got a picture of a single action there, and it says Gun TV. And if you'd like to have the official Shootin' Show shirt, well, you can darn sure order it from us. The shirts are $14.95, and we have a selection of large and extra large, as I said earlier on the show today. But hey, now you can get a cap and a shirt, and you can have a complete Shootin' Show ensemble. I believe that's the correct term there. But again, the cap is still $12.95. You can order our official Shootin' Show cap, and you can get our shirt for $14.95, and that address again is the Shootin' Show, 554 Kings Highway, Shreveport, Louisiana. That zip code is 71104. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce, this is Larry Scott with KWKH Radio, and he is a fan of our program and a good friend, and we're so pleased to be working with him. Tell us about your program, Larry.
Well, John, we're on from midnight to 5:30. That's Central Time, Monday through Friday morning on KWKH. It's the old Louisiana Hayride Station. We're at 11:30 on your AM dial, and we call it the Interstate Road Show, and we'd love to have you join us.
Well, a lot of our viewers out there already listen to you, Larry, and folks, you're going to be able to get some updates on Larry's program. Remember, that's on KWKH Radio. That's 11:30 on that dial, and we're so pleased to be working with Larry.
Folks, unless you attend a reenactment or participate in one, you have no idea of the hardships involved. Rather than glorifying war, more than anything else, I think these reenactments bring home the human hardships that these people had to endure. North or South doesn't matter. They fought for what they believed in. Please, don't allow our heritage to be stolen for us. Fight and join the NRA. Protect our Second Amendment rights. For without the Second Amendment, all the other rights are meaningless and have no foundation.
You know, I've been talking to that gobbler all morning, but I guess that's one turkey I just can't fool. Hi, I'm Grits Gresham, and believe me, turkey hunting is a real challenge. It takes patience, skill, and the right equipment. So see the folks who'll steer you right on the firearms and other hunting gear you'll need this season. Don't you be fooled. For your equipment needs, see the real pro in your community.
Friends, you know, all of us as shooting enthusiasts really need to be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots, with 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Shotgun News, Post Office Box 669, Hastings, Nebraska. That zip code is 68902. Their phone number is area 402-463-4589. For MasterCard or Visa, subscriptions only now, 1-800-345-6923.
Get ready to order the most exciting videotape ever offered on television. It's the best of Guns, Guns, Guns. 60 minutes of action, excitement, and the most amazing display of firearms available on video. Pistols, rifles, shotguns, and machine guns. See Bob Munden, the fastest gun who ever lived. USPSA pistol competition, the Steel Challenge, U.S. Marine Corps weapons, machine guns from around the world, and lots of surprises. If you like guns, you'll love the best of Guns, Guns, Guns. Available only through this special TV offer. Fast draw competition, hand cannon, Soldier of Fortune firepower, how to shoot fast, and lots more like you've never seen it before in this 60-minute action-packed video. Use your credit card to order toll-free now. Call 1-800-942-8273. You'll receive the best of Guns, Guns, Guns for just $29.95 plus $4 shipping. By ordering now, you'll receive this 28-page gun video catalog absolutely free. So call with your credit card right now, 1-800-942-8273, or send check or money order to 7888 Ostro Street, Suite A, San Diego, California, 92111.
Now, friends, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Shootin' Show. We certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Let me remind you, if in fact there's something going on in your area, please let us know about it. If you think there's a chance that our audience might want to see it, there's some possibility that Kurt or myself can get down there and tape or certainly cover a feature. You can get in touch with us, you know, at the Shootin' Show, 554 Kings Highway, Shreveport, Louisiana. That zip is 71104. Our phone number is area 318-222-8515. We look forward to seeing you next week on another Shootin' Show.